Hi, everybody. This is Tevis with Balance Integration and author of Game Changer's Guide to Radical Success, my book. And I have been doing this series since the summer, and I am thrilled for each and every of our guests because the intention has been all along to identify people in my life, and I know that you have tons in your life as well, who have navigated life in such a way that maybe they went along with what was expected of them in some ways, but then in other ways they stopped and they said, why am I doing this? What fears am I avoiding? And how do I step into mastery, step into connection with myself in such a way that I start to actually build a life that I want? And so I have my guest here today is AJ Wolbrum, who, little known secret, used to work with Balance Integration 562 years ago. But she is here to talk to us about her really interesting path and journey from being a good girl to being a yogi, to being a hippie, to being broke, to being on her way to saying, I don't want to be afraid of money anymore. So this has been her journey. So thank you so much for coming, AJ.
It's been an honor to be here. I'm super excited for this conversation.
I am too. Well, quick tech note to you people there. Yes, you people. If you want to make a comment, and we encourage you to, make it in the chat thing. If we don't answer, it's not because we don't want to. Chances are there's been some kind of a glitch. And if that happens, we will follow up afterwards and answer any questions, because you may have some. And I encourage you, like, even if you think, oh, well, that's not really a good question. No, just fire away, because this is all just people talking about their lives. And that's really the point of it. So okay. So AJ, we're going to dive in, as I love to dive in, and ask you, what was your favorite thing to do as a young one, as a little child?
So my favorite thing to do was to count my collections. And yeah, it's so funny because I have a background in theater. I wanted to be Meryl Streep, like blah, 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 blah. But when I think about like solace as a child and like security and safety, it was my obsession with my collections and then counting and organizing them. And that included coins, Beanie Babies, Goosebump books. I used to collect like the old fashioned Coca-Cola tops, like anything that I could collect, I would. And I remember just spending so much time reorganizing them and making, how many did I have? Yeah.
I kind of love this, because this is something I would never have known about you. Ever. And so what was it about these things? Like, was your family moving a lot? Did you not have a lot of stability? Like, what was it about having things and counting them and being so connected to the physical? What did that do for your sweet baby heart?
Yeah. So despite not knowing my moon in Taurus, which I now know, which makes a lot of sense. Right?
People may not know what that means, by the way, but it's okay.
Google moon in Taurus.
Okay. Homework for all of you, moon in Taurus.
Some of you will get it. Some of you will be like, over my head. Totally fine. So I think that I was trying to create like some kind of structure in my life and control, because my childhood was very tumultuous and chaotic, and there was a lot of pain and suffering. And I think the tactileness of it, like literally having to sit there and count, made me feel safe. I also couldn't read until I was about 7.
Wow.
But I was really good at math. And so I think there was something about adding numbers that just like turned me on, because I could do it and I was good at it. that has obviously like translated into later in life, but these are the truths of my childhood, is that there was a comfort in like knowing what I had. And it's so interesting now that I understand like mental illness a little bit more, and clearly that was clearly combating anxiety and stress.
Yeah.
It's a little OCD.
Well, so the reason I think this is an interesting answer, and it's an interesting thing for all of us to ask ourselves, is a lot of the things that gave us comfort as a young one are either a source of safety or a source of freedom, or somehow a combination of both. And as we move into adulthood, it's just a little piece of insight. Like, why was that so pleasing? Why was that so important to my sweet heart from my childhood? Like, how did that play out? So thank you for being so transparent, because a lot of times I will ask people that and they demur from the honest truth of it. And you just went right into it. So I love that. Okay, so let's move people through your life. So you grow up, by the time I meet you, you are a 20-something in New York City. You are doing the yoga teacher hustle.
Yeah.
And before you hear this and say, oh, well, this conversation probably doesn't pertain to me because I'm not a yoga teacher, I want to say, whoa, au contraire. Because what is interesting is all of us have had to hustle. All of us have had at points in our lives to make ends meet. And more importantly, all of us have had to kind of turn around at some point and say, there are parts of me that I have disowned. There are parts of me that I have left way far behind that maybe are closer to my true path than I ever thought. Mm-hmm. And so when I met you, you were a yoga teacher doing the yoga hustle, which means running from studio to studio and gig to gig and client to client in New York City. And it was so sexy and so exciting because yoga was exploding and people were all getting enlightened.
Yep.
Or needing shoulder surgery or something, right? But how did you go from the childhood that you had to finding your way to being a professional yoga teacher? What was that for you?
Yeah. So if you had asked me when I was 18 if I would be a yoga teacher, one, I would be like, I don't know what yoga is. And two, I would, when upon finding out what that is, I would say absolutely not. Like I wanted the idea. I thought I had to be a bajillionaire in order to be successful. And so I was like, I will be successful by being an actress. And then kind of in college, even though I wasn't ready to admit it, I started to realize that I really just wanted to be the leading lady of my own life. And that's why I acted, so I could hide behind other characters and be myself, essentially. Wow. And yeah. And so I realized that in like probably sophomore year, but I was still like, the ego wasn't ready to let me know that I didn't want this path for myself. So I like threw myself in theater, and I, was doing a ton of stuff. And then it was actually really interesting. So I could have graduated early because I tried to double major in communications, and I ended up really disliking that program, but I had worked so hard to get there that I had enough credits to graduate. But my mom was like, just stay, you're there. You might as well like take another semester, which of course has ended up costing me a lot. But at the time I was like, sure, that sounds like a great idea. I'm going to take all the fun classes. And I took the Alexander technique. And that was the first time I realized that the front side of my body and the back side of my body were connected. I literally didn't know they were the same person.
Yeah. Well, okay, so this is funny. Well, funny, haha. It's not haha funny. It's right. Fascinating, because what you were saying about how so many of the choices either came from what you thought you should be. Like, I thought I had to be a bajillionaire, to quote you, right? I thought I had to be a bajillionaire to be successful, i.e., the world expects me to be successful. For me to be in peace about that, I've got to make boatloads of money, so I'm going to be an actress, right? Yeah. These layered realizations about how many ways we can put on a mask to try and accomplish a falsehood that we think is going to satisfy other people's expectations of us.
Yeah. And
how many masks, like if you were going to tally up how many masks you've had to go through?
Probably the ones that I've worked on and corrected, I would say probably about, I'm going to say 27, but I know that I've worked on less than 27.
Oh my God, I love that. I love it that you actually have a number, because I don't think I can count that high.
Well, the biggest mask besides that one that I've acknowledged and reckoned with and come to terms with in my adult life is like the people pleaser mask, the fixer mask, you know, all things that so perfectly are masked when you're a yoga instructor.
Oh, what a freaking racket too, right? All my yoga teachers, we all know it's a racket.
I know.
It becomes another mask to hide behind, right?
I know.
So when I met you, you and I both had that mask on, and we were going into corporations, really high-powered, amazing organizations, and doing some great work to just create some pressure valves. Sprinkle in some transformational tools here and there, right? Super kind of under the radar. So how did you figure out that being a yoga teacher was not going to allow you to really be yourself? Like, how did you get to a realization that you weren't going to retire an 89-year-old like asana guru? Like, how did you get to that?
That's such a good question. So the first most obvious one was that I was in so much pain physically. My wrist hurt, my shoulder hurt, my body just hurt a lot. And what I had loved to do was starting to become very unpleasurable in the physical form. So that was the first indication. But of course, you never want to listen to your body. So I ignored that one.
Even when it's your profession,
I know.
Listen to your body. You don't want to listen to it.
Well, that was the fraud. And so that's where so when I decided to take care of my debt and to start actually standing up for myself financially and start making choices that were in my best interest today and in the future, and I like reclaimed and took over that relationship in my life, I got to a point when like the tunnel of debt was clearing and I was like getting out of it. And I was like, I don't make enough money in this profession to support me in the way that I need. And I'm seeing.
Well, let's wait. So you're hustling, trying to make ends meet, and debt is building up, and you're in physical pain.
Yeah.
Like, how did all that converge for you to have this awakening? Like, it sounds like doing the math, like counting not what you had collected, but counting what was lacking.
Yeah.
Got you to make the change that you've made. But I mean, what was that situation?
The situation was that I was 27 and I wanted to meet the love of my life. And I wanted to, you know, I thinking about it makes me want to cry, which is interesting. And I wanted to like start my life. I felt like I was sitting in the driver's seat, which is, you know, unconscious, you know, what I was doing as an actor too, like in behind the scenes. And I wanted to like I would go to friends' houses and I'd be with their families and I was an outsider. And I was like, I want to have the house. I want it to be my family. I want to start my life. And my grandparents were getting older, friends were starting to get married. And I was like, I don't want to miss my friend's wedding because I have to work because I can't afford to take off. I don't want to not go see my grandparents, you know? And it just was like this moment, this Hail Mary moment where I don't know if I said that right. I'm Jewish. So I think it's the Hail Mary moment. I don't know. Come to Jesus moment.
Whatever. I don't mind. All of us appropriate. I'm fine with it.
I just hope I'm saying that one correctly. I know it was a come to Jesus moment that I had been waiting for someone to come and fix my problems. And I realized that no one was going to. And I was like waiting for that check to arrive in the mail to wash all my troubles away. And that moment of just like, oh, no one's coming. I have to save me.
You are the cavalry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the general and the lieutenant and everybody. And
the general and the lieutenant and the mess chef and everything else. So just acknowledging you would put yourself into a pretty nasty debt situation, right?
Yeah.
And you had some college education, but you'd pretty much been an actress and a yoga teacher. How did you do it? I have many friends in similar situations, particularly now, because of what has happened to the yoga studios, right, due to COVID. And I'm just curious because one of those cliches, right, that you hear a lot is that, oh, I'm not good at money, right? Yep. Mm-hmm. I'm bad with money. Or the other thing is the polarization that you're either a good person, right, and you have a career that's connected to your heart, or you're good with money.
Yeah.
You have the house and the cars and like all that other stuff. So, yep. So how did you work through this?
So I asked for help. That was my aunt. So my biological uncle's wife. Mm-hmm. She is amazing with money and has had an extraordinarily successful career at BlackRock. And I knew she was budgeting my grandparents' finances. So I called her and I was like, can you just explain to me what a budget is? Help me create one based off of what I spend and what I earn. And can you like hold my hand while I call debt collectors and make sure I don't put myself in a bad situation? And so she did. Yeah.
So you actually had people calling you going, pay up, or cousin Guido's going to come and break your legs.
Oh yeah. Every day. And then so every day in America, but when I lived in New Zealand, in Australia, they found me in Australia on my Nokia phone.
Wow.
And they called me every day.
So you're in pretty bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so, but I remember in my yoga teacher training, one of the teachers said, you are only as strong as your own practice. And they're like, we're pushing you because if you experience it, then you can teach it. And I've done it all: credit cards, student loans, tax debt, family debt, you name it.
Wow.
I did it all.
So acknowledging that not everyone has an aunt who works at BlackRock.
Yep.
An aunt who gets money. The people in my family, I mean, I have no one at BlackRock to call and help me sort through these questions. And I know that that's true for a lot of people, but, so what did you really figure out? I mean, right now there's probably some debt forgiveness going on because of COVID, but I know that's a moving target. What did you really learn about your fear about money? Like what was really behind that fear about money?
Well, so the two questions. So I'll answer the first one and then I'll go into the fear. So the first one was, what did I learn? I learned that when you're making X amount of dollars and you're spending an eighth of your income on one category, such as therapy or fitness or clothing or vacations, that's probably an imbalance. So like, and so when you talk about masks, like one of the masks I had is I was in New York City yoga business owner and I needed to be in the scene. So I was spending $300 to $600 a month on fitness, which was unacceptable when you have no savings and are in a ton of debt. And you can go to Crunch Gym for $9.
But it's part of what's expected.
Right. With your green
right? I'm going to go to the $60 workshop that's 2 hours with a famous instructor so that I can be around these people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it is kind of like that same actor desperation of like, maybe I'll meet someone and there'll be a networking opportunity and who knows where it will lead. And there's like all of that. Yeah. And then the fear, I was, so yoga brought the awareness of self and of who I was and who I thought I was. And when I started dealing with the money stuff, I was actually, the fear was in the letting go. I was afraid to let go of what I knew and afraid to let go of my resentments and my beliefs around other people in my life and myself.
Huh. And that was all around money?
My whole ego is wrapped up, like literally like blah with money.
I wonder how common that is. Now that you're doing this work, do you find that to be a common theme that we really assign identity and value and worth around money? Like, it sounds like that's what you were doing.
Oh, yeah. And still working through, like I would be like, I don't know what the name would be, like, hi, I'm AJ and have a relationship with money that I'm working on, like,
yeah.
I'm not like I wouldn't say that I'm addicted to money, but I'm obsessed with money. Like I love talking about money. I love helping people work through their money, but I also am always working through my relationship with money. I do think a lot of people are unconsciously controlled by their need to have money, and also a lot of people are controlled by their belief that they don't deserve money and can't have any money.
Wow. Well, I think there's a lot of kind of head nodding and lip service when we talk about money, right? When we say, oh, well, that's not everything. Right? Or we say, oh, well, money doesn't make you happy.
Yeah.
Right. But there's this connection to the nervous system and survival that kind of kicks in the minute that money is not present, or maybe even if it is, that says that there's never enough.
Yep.
And so I'm just curious, now that you've been looking at this for a number of years and you're coaching people around cleaning up their debt, building up a savings account, right? Starting to get free of the no money kind of syndrome and moving in towards stability. I'm just curious. I mean, how do you deal with that idea that if we don't have money, we are worthless, and still clean up the relationship with money? Because I see this as being not something just about the yoga teachers, the self-employed among us. I mean, our relationship with money is fraught throughout the culture. I have friends who are sitting on $1 million savings accounts, and they may not feel like they have enough.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. So So it's kind of funny. There was a workshop that we did, and it involved anyone in the room putting down how much money was on their person, and how they felt, if they felt that they were wealthy or not. So this would be like, I have no money on me right now. And I would say 0, right? And people who hack this stuff and want to pretend they're all enlightened, right, would say, oh, but I have all these riches, right? And the point isn't to hack these kind of practices. The point is to actually say to yourself, how connected is my state of well-being to what, or my identity, or my sense of worth to what I have?
Yeah.
Right. To my collections. And I think it's really kind of an awesome full circle for you that you went the full gambit, right? From I got to be a bajillionaire to, oh my God, I'm broke. I'm supporting a lot of false identities through it. And now how do I work mindfully through this? And I would assume, because you come at this having looked at a lot of false identity, that you're approaching it in a way that's somehow more whole.
Yeah, it's about balance in your life. I mean, it's about a relationship. And the biggest thing that I experienced was that my grandparents said, in order to be in a relationship, you needed to have love, respect, and trust and communication. That was like their pillars. And when I was looking in the mirror and I was looking at my money, I didn't love myself. I didn't trust myself. I didn't respect myself, because I said I was going to do something and then I wouldn't do it. You know, I was constantly, through money, perpetuating bad behavior. I was creating negative feedback all of the time with my relationship with money. And so when I acknowledged the core beliefs that I had, and I could correct them through using something so every day we have to deal with, it reinforced it so quickly that I was able to very quickly create the life that I actually wanted.
It really does call you to the mat. Like, I loved what you said about love, trust, respect, and communication.
Yeah.
Because right as you first started talking about that, it was about loving yourself, trusting yourself, respecting yourself, right? But the vehicle through which you held yourself accountable was money. And what's interesting, like, this could be a conversation about food. Yeah. Love, trust, respect, and communication. Am I keeping my word?
Yes.
Am I loving myself through this? It could be about how much booze are you drinking? It could be about, do you give all your time to work and none to your heart, right? Like, there are so many ways these pillars of love, trust, respect, and communication can play out. So I think that as I sit here, and this is all, by the way, feeding imperfectly. Shameless plug. But so much of it is about integrity. And I know that it's a big word and we're all sick of it. And we all go, oh, but sometimes I just want to have a chicken wing. And sometimes I just want to blow $500 on a hairdryer or what. Like, I know that we all have to give the one finger Brooklyn wave to perfection from time to time. But what I really love about that structure that your grandparents gave you is that we can apply that to anything. But the nice thing about money, or the nice thing about food, or the nice thing about exercise, or the nice thing about these things that are really a constant in our lives, is that you cannot BS yourself.
No. I think there's you kind of hinted on it, like spiritual bypassing. Is so prevalent in the yoga world and the wellness world, and soon to be the financial wellness world. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of spiritual bypassing. You just can't, you can't. And that's the best part about money, because I get to, if I'm being a coach or I'm looking at my own finances, the numbers don't lie. My fiance says that all the time. He's like, the numbers don't lie. That's what it is. That's what you spent. That's what happened. Like, that wasn't anybody else. That was you.
Yeah. And I think that most of the life changes, right? This is the season of, I'm going to change my life this year. Most life changes, if we really think about what our desired outcomes are, there are constant metrics, right? Because I think of them, there's like outcome goals, right? Which you could say, I pay off debt, I get a down payment for a house. That was a huge thing for me, right? To be able to be self-employed and buy a house. It was like, woo. So that would be an outcome goal, right? But there's also process goals, right? And process goals, in my mind, are the things that aggregate and take you to these outcome goals. But these process goals are stuff that we can hold ourselves accountable for or on every day, every minute. So right now there are probably some processes or some tricks and tips, and I don't often do the tricks and tips thing on this format on this series, but I feel like you probably have some really good tricks and tips. Yeah, I can't even say that. Tricks and tips that might be helpful to people as we roll into February already.
Yeah, that's insane. I know January went by so fast this year. I remember last year, January felt, and it's easy to remember last year because January to March 11th, it was
normal.
Yeah. I just remember January being so long, and this year January is buzzing through. So I guess, and this is how I just always start a conversation with anybody, like whether it's professional or impersonal. I guess it's always personal. Is like, what are your beliefs around money to begin with? Like, and how are you raised to believe about money? And understanding and like reckoning with those beliefs, that they're shaping your reality now, and understanding that they can change. That the first thing I hear is, nobody taught me how to budget and get my finances in order. And I'm like, well, there's a lot of things people didn't teach you, and you learned how to do them. Like you learned how to kiss somebody. Your parents didn't teach you how to do that.
Hopefully not. That's gross.
I hope not. So that's like that would be the first thing. If we're talking about like, then going into the more tangible, it's like, all right, well, you need to understand what it is that you value and what it is that you love out of life, because you can't look at your numbers without understanding where you want to spend your money and where you want to allocate, because then you're going to come up with arbitrary numbers like, oh, I'm going to put this, I'm going to budget $300 for food and $2 for fitness. And it's like, no. We need to like actually look at what you care about. And so for me, my highest value is, because people pleaser and fixer, and I love my family and friends. It's everything to me, and total embracement of that. Like, I want to be the greatest friend and sister and child and niece in the world. That's my ambitions. And so so my budget is reflective of that, of my values. So it's
got it. So for people to start with their values, it's while you were talking, I was really thinking about both what you were saying, but also how does that correlate, because what we're taught about any one thing somehow becomes a mirror onto ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So you may have been taught certain attitudes about money, but that also taught you how to feel about you. And with the depth of longing for change, I think planetarily, the depth of what can I do to be a part of a solution, right? I keep going back over and over and over again to what all the wisdom teachers say from Ram Dass all the way back, right?
Yeah.
Is that the biggest thing that we can do is work on ourselves.
Yeah.
Biggest thing that we can do, the biggest offering,
Yeah.
is to continue to work with our false identities, to work with our ego, right? To work with all the ways in which we are not squaring up to just love this being, right? And I think that the pain points that all of us experience, whether it's money or it's weight or it's love or it's work or it's drama or whatever, right? All these pain points are really just invitations to work on ourselves.
Yeah.
To say, where is it that I have work to do so that I can be whole in what the world is asking of all of us, right? So I don't know. That's part of why I was so excited to talk to you. But I think the other thing too is this process of reinvention.
Yeah.
Right. This giving ourselves permission, whether it's at the start of a new year or just because it's Tuesday and we are damn tired of whatever it is that's been plaguing us.
Yeah.
This idea that change is possible.
Oh, yeah.
That you have neurons that can still be taught new things and rewire, and you are in control. Like you said it, I was in the driver's seat, but I was sitting in the driver's seat the same way I had as an actress. Like, how do you move into that driver's seat and be a better driver, be more present, more conscious, more empowered?
Yeah. I feel that for me, it was the focus that probably yoga taught me to have this like singular area of expertise and experience just allowed me to it created boundaries, which is what I needed in order to become successful in my own life and like create my own success checklist as opposed to what I thought success was, which was very much wrapped up in fame and money.
Yeah. Well, I think we also BS ourselves and say, "Oh, well, I do that."
Yeah.
Don't you like? Don't you think that you use the word spiritual bypass, right? That
Yeah.
oh yeah, there's a lot of yoga teachers who use a spiritual bypass and say, "Oh, well, I think all of us take little cop outs."
For sure.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. If that wasn't true, everybody would be in their ideal weight and have perfect skin and have exactly how much they need in the bank. Like we all do it. It's just I guess the difference is I wasn't saying I was doing it. I was doing it.
Okay, so you started to do it instead of saying that you were doing it.
Yeah, like I think a lot of like very tangible examples of spiritual bypassing is like I have to go to the yoga studio in order to do spirituality. And it's like it has to be in this container. And then like of course COVID happened and blew up everything, which I'm actually really excited about because I feel like it needed a shakeup. And everybody had to redefine how they practice spirituality because it was like this container of I go to this space and I have this experience and and I'm still redefining mine. Like mine's totally rocked too. But before COVID happened, there was this, the getting my finances in order for me was like the most spiritual thing I had ever done. And it was so granular and dirty and not glamorous at all. And
the discomfort is always where the breakthrough lies.
Yeah. I settled in. I felt loneliness for the first time. Like, I don't know if many people actually know what loneliness feels like, because we bypass it all the time with food, with sex, with seeing friends, with, just consumption, or complete isolation and avoidance. And I felt loneliness, and that like changed my life when I acknowledged and reckoned loneliness and didn't do anything about it and just sat in it. And that's what was like, I want to help somebody. I want somebody to feel it so they can experience it, but I want them to know they're not alone in their loneliness.
Yeah, and I think too that that a lot of times when we're making changes in our lives on such a subtle yet pervasive level, it is isolating, because it's something that we can only do because of ourselves.
Yeah.
It's not like you may have been able to turn to your aunt who worked at BlackRock for some advice, but that wrestling, that dark night of the soul,
yeah,
that is you and you alone. Like that is, and yeah, it's really uncomfortable. And it's like, oh, I can't run out to dinner to get away from this.
Yeah. I can't drink this away. I can't
Amazon this away. I can't social media this away.
Yeah.
Because it's too big. It's too real, and it's too important.
Yeah. And it built, and I always thought I was extremely resilient and strong and could like face really interesting adversity. But having to sit in that and like get, be told that my student loans couldn't be, lowered, and like that like sitting on the floor, not being able to peel myself up, and then going to have to teach, or going and having to waitress, which I was doing while I was teaching. That built a strength. I showed up for myself, and that changed everything. Yeah.
High five. I am high-fiving you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm high-fiving you. God, those nasty, I feel like such a piece of garbage.
Yeah.
And then you have to pick yourself up.
Yeah, that was huge.
You have to brush off whatever and rise again. I love that.
Yeah. It was, I look back and I'm so grateful that I just showed up. I showed up. I just didn't let myself cop out. I didn't call out. I made it. I figured out a way to get there. And that was the growing up part. That to me was me just growing up and like taking responsibility for my life and my actions and my choices.
For the person you are.
Yeah. And the person I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Girl, I've had a lot of people on this series, and when folks show up and really not just, talk about their platitudes or their great like insights and stuff, but they really talk about, I had to realize I had been lying to myself. I had dug myself a ditch, right, etc. Like that is such a gift. So I want to thank you for really being brave and transparent, because it's kind of the superhero thing, right? A lot of times people get a camera in front of them and they know, oh, well, I'm across 4 platforms and people are watching me, and so I better look like a superhero. I'm like, we don't learn from each other's perspective.
Yeah.
We learn from each other, or from that kind of, oh, I'm at the top of the mountain now. We learn from each other's journey,
Yeah.
right? And so thank you so much.
Yeah. My pleasure.
So you're at a point now that you are working with other people to accomplish this, which is wonderful.
Yeah. I am. And can I tell you about it?
Yes. And why don't you share a link so people know
Perfect.
how they can work with you?
Okay. So I do private and group coaching. My company is called Beyond the Green, and we are expanding, which I haven't really revealed. I'm in the process of training other people to become financial freedom coaches, which is like a totally amazing new hat that I get to wear. And I also do financial wellness. I'm currently working with Deloitte and Price Modern, which is a DC, Baltimore-based Maryland brand, company, and it's awesome. People want to talk about money, and I'm here for it.
People do. Yeah, especially now it's so tied to every form of well-being, but that's the kind of beings we are. Everything's connected to each other. Well, so no one's asked any questions, and I'm just going to say, if you happen to catch this cast after it's over in a rebroadcast or something, and you want to add a question, we will eventually see them and get back to you. Absolutely. I also just wanted to say, I am kicking off two things that are very much in line with what we have been talking about. First is a mastermind around Game Change Palooza. So whether money's your thing, whether weight loss, whether drinking, whether I just want to pull the cork out of my heart and inner power and move more powerfully through life, that is the kind of outcomes that people say they get when we work through this book one chapter at a time. And I would really love to invite any of you to come and do this. We're going to start on March 9th. And if the last round was any sign of what's to come, if you dive in with me, you're going to get a whole new sense of deep, satisfying connection to yourself and empowerment is one thing. The other thing, I am working with folks one-on-one directly on these kinds of questions. Really focus on greatness. What is your brand of greatness, and how do you bring that into the world? So I put two links in the chat. And AJ, if you want to put the link to your workshop, that'd be great. Meanwhile, also, we've got some chats coming up. One is going to be with Lori Ann. She is the CEO of the Branson Center, and she is going to be talking about what it is for her to be a CEO who's working for Richard Branson, who, as cool as he still has high expectations, and how she is managing that in COVID and a downturn as a mother, as a wife, et cetera, et cetera. So she will be fascinating. I'm going to also have Steve Darr, who runs a nonprofit called Peace Work. So you can look for him to come on as well. And I've got a couple other people lined up in the coming weeks. So I'm grateful for everyone who tunes in, because I feel like the more we have transparent conversations about the ways in which we have changed and pivoted and looked at our demons and said, by God, I love you, demon, but you are not in my driver's seat. Yep. Then that's really a great thing for the world, because the world needs our demons not to be in the driver's seat. They're great teachers. They just don't need the keys to the vehicle. So AJ, do you want to add anything before we sayonara?
No. I do also. Oh, yeah, I do. I lied. I do. Okay. I also have a podcast called Everybody's Bad with Money, because a lot of you are, and that's okay. But I'm also a truth seeker like Tevis and an adapter to change. And I feel that the more transparent and honest we can get with ourselves and others, then the less we will feel isolated, alone, and afraid. So I am really honored that you thought to have me on the Game Changer, and I hope that my story resonated with
Amen.
you.
Truth sets everyone free. And I love it that you came because a friend of mine said, oh, well, I can't go on the Game Changer chats because it's all CEOs and founders of companies and, muckety mucks. And I was, no, it's all of us.
I was raised on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I thought I was the center of the universe. Like, I'm like, what? I'm not a CEO. Of course I'm a CEO. I can hang.
Love it. And you can hang. And you did hang beautifully. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. Pop in questions, comments, share, talk, etc. Most of all, be well. Bye, you guys.
Bye.